Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 621, and today we're going to take a look at Thunderstone Quest. If I can hold the box, it's so heavy. You can actually see it's a huge box. The thickness here is just a little bit less thick than the Gloomhaven box, which is gigantic. So it gives you a sense of, what all could be packed into this box. Now, the edition that I have, this was on Kickstarter a little bit ago, maybe a year ago, I'm not exactly sure. This is like the Champion Edition, so what I'm going to show you is kind of the base game, and I think 5 expansions kind of bundled in. Now, you can't get this anywhere for right now. I just want to get that out of the way up front. It is going to be on Kickstarter again, I believe in a couple of weeks from the time of this video. Now, that's also going to add in some co-op modes and some other different little widgets and some more expansions and things, but you will be able to get what I show you here again at that Kickstarter level, at least according to their most recent update. Now, a little bit of a preface here. I played the original Thunderstone back in 2010 or 11, right around then. And I did not care for it whatsoever, to be honest with you. I didn't like it. The theme didn't really get into me. I kind of felt like I was just playing sort of a Dominion variant at the time. What the game is, if you haven't heard of it, is sort of a dungeon crawl deck building game. And we've seen a lot of deck building games over the last several years. And I never had a chance to play the second edition, which was Thunderstone Advanced, because I didn't care for the first one. Then AEG sent me this, and I was like, Thunderstone. Yeah, okay. And so I saw some stuff online that people, they said they really enjoyed it, and they sent it to me. So I was like, okay, this is a huge box. Let me give this a shot. Well, spoiler alert, especially if you listen to my most recent podcast, is I absolutely love this game. It's not drastically different. It's not set a world apart completely from the original, but they've gone through and refined every last bit of it. So let's jump into the game. I'll give you kind of a normal rundown, then I'll kind of come back and give you my standard review stuff. Okay, I've gone ahead and set up the main boards here. Now it's kind of separated into 3 sort of main areas. You have your village board, which is this large board here. You've got several different heroes and items and spells and things that you can go here and visit and get things. And then over here on the right, these are made up of various little different tiles, and these kind of make up the dungeon and the wilderness that you're going to be exploring. And then each player has a player board with a starting deck of cards. You always start off with the same deck of cards, and just give you a quick idea here. Here you've got a Thunderstone shard, a dagger. We're going to have some random adventurers, and you're also going to have, let's see, what did I miss here? Oh, a lantern. And so on your turn, you're going to choose to go into either the village or the dungeon and then play out that phase of the game. Now you also get here a couple of these different miniatures here, and you just kind of choose one. These are not super important in terms of which one you actually choose. They're effectively just different pawns, but they are pretty good quality little sculpts here for a deck building card game. But you're going to use these to mark where you're at in the dungeon and which particular area of the village you're going to be visiting. So on your turn, you're always going to draw this number of cards. So in this case, you're going to draw 6 cards to start the game, and then at the end of the round, unless you take a little bit of damage, which you can see here, you'll start to cover up these little wound markers. So after I take 2 wounds, then I'll only be drawing 5 cards and so on. Now there are ways, of course, to heal the wounds, and there are other wounds that you can actually get in your deck. These are festering wounds. These are going to hurt you if you draw them, and they're going to affect you during battle. And you can also see these are actually worth -1 experience or -1 victory point. Experience and victory points are one and the same. So on your turn, you draw 6 cards, and then you decide where you want to go. And actually, you'll draw 6 cards at the end of the turn, just to be clear. So if you want to go and spend money, you can see the amount of money these cards will generate if you're going to go buy something in the village. And then you've also got here some combat ratings and so on, and these will help you, of course, fight things in the dungeon. And of course, there's different effects and things that you can use, and sometimes stuff you can use in the village, sometimes stuff you can use in the dungeon. And before we look at the village and the dungeon, you can see it gives you a nice quick breakdown of your turn. So the first thing you do is reveal your hand in both spots. And then in the village, you can do in any order. You can buy 1 card, you can heal 1 wound, and then you can level up a hero. And then you can do an extra bonus based on where you put your little pawn there. And in the dungeon, you do the same kind of thing. You reveal your hand, you can move through the dungeon, and so on, and you fight monsters, and there'll be some effects before and after battle and so on, which I'll get to. So What are the things you can do in the village? You can buy cards. You can buy one of these cards over here in the marketplace. You can level up your heroes. So as I said, everybody starts with a level 0 adventurer, and you can see the level right there in the middle. And these adventurers can level up into any of these level 1 heroes. And so you can see this guy is, a cleric fighter. And then this guy here is just a regular fighter. And then once you level up, you will throw away your adventurer. He'll go out of your deck. And then this guy here will go into your deck. And then after a bit, you can level up the level 1s, and they have to maintain their same class. They basically have to stay the same person. So Gorlander level 1 can go into Gorlandor level 2, and then finally level 3, and so on. And like I said, the last thing you can do is you can also heal a single wound, and that could be a wound out of your deck or on your board. And then based on where you put your pawn, you can do a little bit of a bonus action type of thing. So if you go up here to the bazaar, you can buy some food, you can buy a lantern, or you can buy a healing potion. And these are just little tokens that you can keep, and they're going to stay on your player board. And they're effectively do the same thing as some of the cards do, but they're going to stay around. You don't have to draw them to actually make use of them. If you pretend you want to level up 2 heroes, you can go here, do your free level up, and then also do a second level up. If you go down here to the temple, then you can actually heal a second wound. You'll take one of the cards from your hand, put that face down back on top of your deck, and then you'll kind of draw back up. So it's kind of a way to sort of level set your hand as well. Not only can you heal 2 wounds, but let's say you draw a hand that's not that great really for buying anything or fighting anything, but you know your deck, you know what you got coming probably, so you kind of set yourself up for a better turn. And then if you go over here, you can also, in addition to the basic things, you can spend $10 here to get a legendary card here, or a treasure card I should say. And so here you get the awesome healer. There's all kinds of items and cool things in here. And these cards will also generate cards for you when you go into the dungeon, and sometimes they'll say go get a treasure card, and you just pull out of this deck as well. So that's basically a very simple piece of the village. So let's talk about the dungeon now. Now the first spot that you're going to enter the dungeon at here is this sort of level 0 area, this wilderness. This is going to be in every game, and there's always going to be some kind of sort of dummy monster that you can hit and whack for kind of easy sort of a skill up. So in the first few scenarios you're going to play against a giant rat. This gives you a free level up. So normally when you level up, you're going to have to spend here these experience points, but remember these are also your victory points. But in this case you can level up a adventurer, a level 0 adventurer for free. But then as the game goes along, you're going to kind of trigger the end game, and then the boss of that particular scenario, or the one that you've selected, is going to become available. And you can see this gal here, Smorga the Queen. She's going to require 8 attack, and you're going to get a certain number of experience based on actually what the location says. She'll do 2 wounds back to you no matter what. And then you can also see that she will reward a treasure card. That gives you kind of a basic breakdown of what a monster would look like. But you can actually move down through the dungeon. So as I start to move down through here, I can get to these level 1, level 2, and level 3 rooms. And you can see based on kind of a random setup or a scenario setup, you have level 1, level 2, and then level 3 monsters on the side. And then as you kill them, let's say we killed this Goblin King down here in level 3, we'll kill him, we're going to get 7 experience points, some treasure, maybe some other stuff based on the room that they're in. You can see he's actually in the Lich's Tomb. So whatever you kill in here is actually going to give you 3 additional experience. And then it also has some other different effects. The rooms have all kinds of different effects. Like this one here, this Fire Chasm. You can see, okay, here's a Bugbear Elite. You need 10 attack to kill him, but because he's in there, he's going to have to actually give +6, so that's 16 attack to kill him. So different rooms will do different things. There'll sometimes be traps in rooms that force you to stop or spend certain cards or certain types of the goods that you've collected to get through them or better manage them. So as you kill these off again, these will be replaced. And then on your turn, you'll only ever fight usually 1 monster, and then that's your turn. So either go into the village and buy stuff or go over here and then fight things. Now inside of these monster decks, you can see here on the left, you're going to shuffle in various numbers of these keys, the different colored keys. So the basic kind of setup is you play through until you discover 4 of them. So let's say I've killed a monster, we flip the next card, that's a key, we'll set that aside. And then once the 4th of these come up, everybody's getting an opportunity to reset their hand. And then everybody gets one last turn, maybe to go out here, and then again maybe fight the boss up here which may or may not be worth more points and more goodies than the level 3. They'll certainly be easier to get to. But everybody gets kind of one final shot, including the person that discovered that final key. And then you just play that out, and then you add up the victory points. So you have all these experience points which you have collected, and then the cards that you have in your deck, some of them will have experience points. So you can see these level 1 heroes don't have any. But if I do spend experience to level them up, I'm not going to regret it because they're going to be better. And also, they're going to be worth experience actually in your deck as well. I think the only other basic gameplay idea is the idea of equipment. And we'll take a look here just at our basic adventurer here. So he's a level 0, or she's level 0, I should say. And you can see she has a skill of 2. So that means you can carry up to 2 quote-unquote skill worth of items. Well, you come with these daggers here, and these are 2 skill. But if I wanted to equip a second dagger, or anything else, I couldn't because she's only got the 2 skill, and this would be 4. So if I use her in the attack, this would be 1 + 1, and that would be 2. But you can see some items, like this Thunderstone, will actually give her +2. So she could go ahead and, like in this case, dual wield a dagger because she's got the power of the Thunderstone. So now she's got a total attack of 3, and so on. So that you have the equipment there. Then you've also got different spells, of course, that will do different things. Like this one here, Future Vision. This one says, place 1 card on top of your deck. If you have a cleric or wizard, you have +1 HP, which means that you'll be able to draw an extra card at the end of the turn. And then this one also provides some light, because again, as you move down through the dungeon, you can see here, let me zoom in just a tiny bit. You can see the light rating here that you need to move through some of these dungeon rooms. And the one thing that's different about it is once I come in here, let's say I go in there and kill that guy, and then a new one comes out, I'm good. I can stay there and kill the next one, or I can go in here and then spend light. You're not like having to reset your trip into the dungeon every time, so you can kind of sort of a little bit plan about where you want to go and things. But if you do want to jump back to the village, you just jump out and you go right to the village. And there's different items. One of the ones I drew randomly here is this Tome of Knowledge, and this says destroy this card and level up 1 hero paying 0. So that could be very effective. You can see it costs you 5 gold to do it, and then you can get you can spend it for money, and then once it comes up for the opportunity, you can also spend it to level up a hero for 0 experience, which will save you some points at the end of the game. So that's kind of the general overall gist of the game. Now there is here a quest book, which is what I've been playing through. We played through the first maybe 4 or 5 of these, and these are specific setups. So you can see here, let me just move that slightly. It tells you exactly how to set everything up, and it kind of walks you through a story, and you can also do it as a campaign. So you can actually keep maybe one of the cards from the marketplace in your deck for future games, which is really neat. So maybe I decide I want to keep this hand axe, start with a little better weapon, and then as you play, your deck's can get better and better. And then the last little bit I want to talk about in the overview are these 3 decks of cards. I love these decks. These kind of almost make the game for me. First thing to talk about here are these guilds. So each player gets a chance to look at the 4 different guilds. So you've got Warriors Guild, Thieves Guild, Mages Guild, and Healers Guild. And you choose one of these to start the game. And these will sort of dictate a little bit how you want to play the game, because these are centered around the different heroes that you can get during the game. So like here you have the Rogue Wizard. So maybe if you want to kind of take a wizard strategy, you would pick here the Mages Guild. And you can see this says, when you defeat a level 1 or higher monster, if you have a wizard and you have a spell, the monster is worth +1 experience points. And that all of these have kind of some little variant on that. So that's kind of a neat little twist there. And then the other thing, all the stuff I'm going to show you here is optional, but this one here I would recommend you add them just from the beginning, because it's just going to make the game that much more fun. And then you're also going to deal out side quests to players, and they'll be able to choose one of these, and then this will give you a little thing that you can do. And let's see, this one. This is going to be one that I like here. It says, after defeating a level 1 or higher monster, if you have 2 or more spells, so this might go hand in hand with being in the Mage Guild, reveal the side quest. When revealed, add the legendary item Balak's Hand to your discard pile. So that's what this stack is about. So some of these side quests will just give you a big bonus of experience, and some of them will have you do these little weird side quest things. Like this one is a wand that spits out all these butterflies, and you've got an orb of light. And then here is Balak's Hand, which is a really just beefy, awesome item that you can get. And there's even ones that will like kind of turn your group into a bunch of vampires and stuff like that. So these are just kind of fun, different ways to kind of change up the game. So even if you play like the same exact scenario from the quest book, you might choose a different guild that give you kind of a different strategy to take, and have a different side quest to give you kind of this other kind of pull and push on what kind of actions that you're taking during the game. So that's pretty much the gist. Okay, so that is Thunderstone Quest. So night and day from my original experience with the original game. I absolutely love this game to death. This is definitely, it's about halfway through the year in my running for Game of the Year. Honestly, this is just a super fun kind of thematic romp through this kind of universe and this little world. I feel like this one elicits that kind of vibe more than definitely the original did. So let's go into a little bit of my sort of 3 bullet points. First thing, we'll talk about player count, and that's going to kind of dovetail with playtime. So player count, I like it equally well with 2, 3, and 4 players. Now the thing is the playtime is going to stay roughly the same, and the reason is because you have those keys. Those keys are just going to come out somewhat randomly, so that's really going to dictate your playtime. If all the keys are at the bottom of all the decks, then the game's going to go a little bit longer, but if you kind of draw them quickly, then it's not. But it all seems to kind of shake out in about an hour, although you can definitely get it done less than an hour with 2 players and so on. But it's not going to go that much longer with 4. And that's because the number of actions total divided up between all the players is the same. So 2 players going back and forth, you personally are going to get a lot more actions than you are in a 4-player game. Now I like this because you think, well, that's maybe isn't a good thing, but in a 2-player game, you're going to be able to develop your deck a lot quicker. And so you're going to start smashing stuff a whole lot faster. You're just going to get more actions back and forth. And so then you can just really go and drive down and kill those level 3 things a lot, compared to a 4-player game where you're not going to get as much opportunity to do that. But I like that because you have to be that much more kind of efficient with your deck building and how you're actually going to score victory points. And it really does make you keep kind of a more watchful eye. Even though there's more players there, you can still kind of keep an eye on everything and try to just, be as efficient and streamlined and great as possible, trying to beat up everything in the dungeon. But then if you want to play a game where I'm this great, amazing group of adventurers, you can play a 2-player and you're always going to build up these awesome decks. So you can kind of tailor that to your experience. Now, comparative wise, if I were to compare it to other games, yeah, you can compare it to the original Thunderstone. I like this a lot better. You can compare it to Dominion, a lot of other deck builders. It's got all those deck building elements to it. But honestly, and this is where the game kind of sinks in, is I compared this to like playing Warhammer Quest or Hero Quest or Descent or something like that. This one really does have that same kind of feel and that nature about the dungeon crawl. Now, the thing is you're playing competitively, and I should say they have said they're going to do a co-op thing, which I think is pretty interesting. But here, it's like it's a cooperative competitive game, but you remove all of the co-opiness. You remove the reliance on the other players. Yes, you all are sort of working for this village, and you go in and you kind of get your daily quest for the day, and there's been an uprising here, so I'm going to go in the dungeon and find this goblin I need to kill, and then come back to town and support the blacksmith and the local adventuring heroes and so on. And you're all trying to do good. All the players have the same goal, to do good, but you're trying to be like the most badass group of adventurers. And that's cool. I mean, that kind of reminds me, there's a comic book I like to read called Rat Queens, and it's a group of adventurers that go off and they get jobs at the local tavern. It's like a D&D campaign as a comic book, but they go out and there's other competing adventuring groups and so on. So it's kind of like you're in that environment where you're trying to go and get the best job and go and do all stuff and kind of level up your group. So all of that really works, and that really kind of grounds you into the theme. Now, the other little tidbits there I mentioned at the end of the walkthrough bit, the different guilds that you can belong to, the side quests and all that, that's nice because it's set apart and it's separate enough from the basic like scenario you might be playing, or maybe you're doing a randomly generated scenario. That's like the game side of it. But those extra quests and legendary items and things, that's kind of the world building side of it, because maybe you get that Wand of Wonder again, you get the vampire cards again, or you get this special legendary thing, or Billy has it this time. So those are kind of that grounding, those persistent items that can be there or not be there from game to game as you kind of either progress through the story or you kind of set yourself in some kind of random, event kind of idea. So all that stuff works really well together. And it's all just very, very, very fun things that are going to happen. Like all that stuff is like really thematic. Like it all really makes sense in terms of the world that's presented. Now the changes that I like are the whole village phase is much better. I don't remember what it was called in the original, but they had this thing where you kind of like reset your hand and like take a turn off. That doesn't really happen. Now you can go to the temple and do that, but just because they kind of like augmented all of that and added that, and the starting decks themselves are a little bit quicker. So once you start playing and you get off your feet, you can, like one of the lantern cards that you get at the very beginning of the game, the starting deck, you can go to the marketplace, and if you play the lantern card, you can just jump over to the wilderness and kill the level 0 thing, even though you're supposed to pick village or dungeon. That card lets you break that rule. So you're immediately kind of in there and doing things. And the daggers themselves, when you use a dagger, you can trash them after using them. So there's kind of this speed built into that starting deck. So you don't really have any turns off in this game. Even when you take a turn off and go to the temple and heal those couple extra wounds, like you kind of need a break because maybe you pushed it really far and you're in the dungeon and you got beat up because you're always getting like damage back from the monster. So you didn't need to take a break and then do that. But it doesn't really feel like downtime. It feels like, oh, I got this turn and now I draw 6 more cards and okay, you need kind of a lay of the land. So it makes sense there. The other thing is moving through the dungeon is way better. So you can move in, you can stay in the dungeon. It has like, there's a map. Each room has different effects. Sometimes they're going to hurt you, sometimes they're going to help you. And instead of like having to go through the dungeon every time again, it's like, I was just here. Why do I have to, go back through it again and spend all this light again? And that's the other thing. You have these little cardboard token or wooden tokens here. And these you can keep around. And so you have your light and things, and you have healing potions, and you have these food rations, which will allow you to beef up your equipment and give you extra money when you want to buy stuff. So there's this little things that are, if you ever played Ascension and some of the other deck building games, which came out after Thunderstone, is you had this idea of constructs. So you have your deck, you go through your deck, but sometimes you'd have cards in front of you that stayed around. You didn't have to luck into sort of drawing them. These are little artifacts and things that you could leave around. And that's what these kind of do. You've got this thing, it's going to be there, you can count on it. And there's still a little bit of variance in your deck, but it's not 100% like, oh, I didn't draw enough light, so I can't do anything, that kind of stuff. So all these kind of like little changes and nooks and crannies and things, and the treasure cards, and the way the player board works with the amount of cards that you can draw, and all that kind of cool stuff. It's gone through that, that kind of last or latest level of refinement. And now it's really fun. And now for me at least, I'm in a dungeon, I'm in this world. And honestly, okay, now you can tell I love it. Okay, great. But to me, I can see this really being applied to different IPs. Like I'd love to see this like instead of Thunderstone Quest, maybe it's Warhammer Stone Quest or something. Or maybe it could be used to be some other IP. I don't know. I just think of Warhammer Quest because that's like, Hero Quest, Warhammer Quest. So kind of the original dungeon crawls. You could do any number of IPs, really. You could have Lord of the Rings or something. This system works really well for that. And like I said, the way they have these kind of plug and play little modules, the guilds, the side quests, the legendary items, all of that stuff. I love plug and play, and maybe I say that term too much, but this feels very, very plug and play. You've got a great system here. You've got the modular dungeon. You've got, the whole deck building and all that stuff, and that's been refined over time. You've got all these modular little, story elements that you can add in. So to me, I hope that this is a successful thing. Now this was $100. They did send it to me, I didn't pay for it, but this is $100 for everything. So you get all the base game, and then the 5 expansions in this huge box. And I should have shown the box. And it comes with a built-in organizer. I just want to show this one piece of it that's really cool. So, you're getting, it's $100 for a deck builder, which is a lot, but you're going to get a lot of plays out of this. And this is just a cool thing, just to kind of show you like the care that they gave to it. So there's like this little tray that has these little handles here that goes in on top of the little slot areas for the cards. And there's just ways to organize all your miniatures and stuff in here. There's like a little clamshell and stuff. So it's very well put together. So it's like a quality product. The art and everything's really well done, and the cards are good quality and all that good stuff. So again, I highly recommend this game. I believe sort of just the base game was $60. And so you get the big box. I'm sure you're paying a little bit for the box in that case. But you get the base game, you get all the components and the miniatures and all the wooden stuff and everything. So yeah, so definitely if you can afford it, you know, I think on surface it seems like a little bit much for a card game, but I don't think in this case, honestly, I don't like to talk about price a whole lot because that's personal, but I think in this case, to me, it feels like that's a good ballpark price for all the stuff that you get, because it's going to take a while for me to get through all this. I haven't done the campaign stuff where you keep the card around, but I've played through just the missions in the scenarios going through the campaign without doing it as a campaign, just kind of playing the game. And it's really cool. And there's a bunch of them in that quest book. And you can play the, what's that thing called? The Epic Thunderstone, which a lot of people like. I haven't played that. I'm more interested in kind of doing the campaign because I like the narrative sort of permanence or persistence kind of thing. Anyway, so I'm kind of done talking about this game, but I definitely recommend folks pick this up. If the price point feels like it's out of whack, I would definitely split this with somebody that you could play it with. And I think you would get a lot of gameplay out of this. And of course, they're going to add new modules, and the co-op is coming and all that kind of cool stuff. So again, it's a very plug and playable type of thing. And I don't know, I'm excited for it. I hope it has some legs. So that is Thunderstone Quest. Thanks.